From the CBS Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, this is CBS2 News at 5 p.m.
The countdown is on as we inch closer to the historic meeting between President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
After months of heated rhetoric and digs at each other on social media, the President of the United States is set now to meet with North Korea's Kim Jong-un.
Well, CBS2's political reporter Dave Ryan joins us now with more on this high-stakes meeting, Dave.
And it is high stakes. In about an hour, we're supposed to see the two men actually shaking hands, which just that, adds a touch of history, I think, to what's going on. There's a lot on the line when these two world leaders meet in less than an hour from now. The White House says the president and Kim Jong-un will first meet alone with just their interpreters. At issue, North Korea's nuclear weapons program and U.S. sanctions on the communist country. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un waved to the crowds as he took a nighttime stroll around Singapore ahead of his one-on-one meeting with President Trump. Earlier in the day, President Trump met with Singapore's president and expressed optimism about the summit.
My friend, we've got a very interesting meeting in particular tomorrow, and I think things can work out very nicely.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo spent part of the day with North Korean officials to lay the groundwork for the meeting.
The fact that our two leaders are sitting down face to face is a sign of the enormous potential to accomplish something that will immensely benefit both of our peoples and the entire world.
The White House says the only outcome the United States will accept is complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. But Secretary Pompeo avoided specifics about what the U.S. is offering North Korea in exchange.
We're prepared to take what will be security assurances that are different, unique, than have been provided, that America has been willing to provide previously.
Pompeo also said the U.S. will keep up the economic pressure until North Korea takes verified steps to dismantle its nuclear arsenal. Just a couple of hours ago, President Trump sent out this tweet attacking his critics for questioning the summit. The fact that I am having a meeting is a major loss for the U.S., say the haters and losers. We have our hostages, testing, research, and all missile launches have stopped. And these pundits who have called me wrong from the beginning have nothing else they can say. We will be fine. Now, the president is expected to meet with the North Korean leader for about 45 minutes with only their translators. Then they have a working lunch attended by their delegations, including Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, National Security Advisor John Bolton, and White House Chief of Staff John Kelly. So the stakes here are high, not only in terms of the nuclear issue, but politically they're high as well. The president is not, he's not afraid of taking risks. But if this doesn't work out for him, it could be embarrassing politically as well.
But we have more to determine even once this happens today, because if there is agreement that's reached, right, it's going to be so long and lengthy as far as the details. So
that's right.
That
verification, making sure nobody even knows how many nuclear missiles they have in North Korea yet, right?
It's a lot of moving parts.
That's right. That's right.
Dave, thank you.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll continue to follow with developing news and bring you any updates as they happen here on CBS2. At 6:30, CBS Evening News with Jeff Glor will be live in Singapore with the very latest. Pat?
Well, the police standoff to tell you about right now. This was in the middle of the lake at MacArthur Park. It has ended. Officers say the man was wanted for threatening someone with an axe. They say he swung the axe but did not hit that person.
We're told he then dropped the weapon and then ran into the lake. He eventually gave up and police then arrested him.
Well, tonight the mother of a woman found dead in a parking lot in San Bernardino was looking for answers.
Triad investigators are now trying to find a killer.
34-year-old Marlene Santillan's body was found on Del Rosa Avenue near Pomelo Street yesterday.
CBS 2's Nicole Comstock is live on Del Rosa Avenue with chilling new details tonight at 5. Nicole?
Yeah, the victim's mother tells us she had a gut feeling her daughter was dead days before her body was found here in this parking lot in San Bernardino, where her family has since left flowers and balloons and candles in her name. And her mother tells us right around the time her daughter went missing, she had a discussion with her about her own death. Wrapped in a tarp and stuffed inside a wooden box, dumped behind a $1 car wash in San Bernardino.
I just want to be with my daughter. Just gotta think of your grandkids.
That's how Wanda Edwards' daughter was found dead Sunday morning. 34-year-old mother of 5, Marlene Santillan.
You'll see Marlena through them. I know.
Marlene's mother, Wanda, and her Aunt Tammy had been searching for her for 12 days. They say they filed a missing persons report on Friday.
My sister kept saying, Tammy, I know she's dead, and I kept telling her, no, no, no.
And 2 days later, a passerby found her body here in a parking lot at Del Rosa and Pomelo Street. Wanda says she had a gut feeling her daughter was gone because Marlene recently discussed her own death and pleaded with her mother to protect her children.
2 weeks ago, Mom, please, Mom, when I die, because she knew. She said, Mom, when I'm gone, please fight for my kids and get my kids back.
Wanda says her daughter was devastated when Child Protective Services took her kids last year, that she started hanging out with the wrong people.
Choose the wrong path, and I know that.
Now the San Bernardino Police Department Homicide Unit is working to determine who left her decomposing body here in a makeshift coffin and when.
And I feel the hurt.
Marie Cabrera came out here today with the first response prayer team to comfort Marlene's mother at her daughter's vigil, to show her that the entire community cares.
You know, they feel sad, we're sad. They're broken, we feel broken with them.
And nearby businesses that have surveillance cameras tell us they didn't pick anything up. So her mother sure would appreciate it if you have any information, if you can contact the San Bernardino Police Department. Reporting live tonight in San Bernardino, Nicole Comstock, CBS 2 News.
Scary moments at a parking lot at Santa Monica. Look at that. A driver almost plunged 4 stories to the ground from a 4th Street parking garage today. Luckily, guard wires saved the car from falling and the people inside. People inside that were in that car got out safely. And firefighters then managed to pull that car back into the structure.
Well, it may be cooler at the beaches, but some of them are dangerous today. A high surf warning is in effect for those who want to take a dip in the ocean. CBS 2 Orange County reporter Michelle Gili is live in Huntington Beach, where there were a lot of rescues today. Hi, Michelle.
Pat, a real double-edged sword here. Surfers are having so much fun, but lifeguards are being kept on their toes. They are very, very busy because of these stronger than normal rip currents. Pounding surf continued along the Southern California coast. At the Wedge in Newport Beach today, the world-famous surf spot lived up to its reputation. Sets were as high as 10 feet. Quite a thrill for body surfers and observers.
This is pretty incredible out here today, for sure.
Very cool. The waves are super huge. I can't believe that there's actually people out there. That's basically like going into the rapids in Niagara Falls.
Big waves meant a big workout for lifeguards in Huntington Beach.
My advice is that people really need to understand their own ability. Right now, the way the surf is, in general, it's an advanced level. If you're not an advanced, strong swimmer, you really shouldn't be swimming out too far. Staying close, where it's shallow, keep your feet on the bottom.
The calendar still says spring, but it's full-on summer mode at the beach with a good-sized Monday crowd. Add the high surf and stronger than normal rip currents, and you get a lot of action in the water. Over the weekend, there were 98 rescues made by Huntington Beach lifeguards and more than 3,300 warnings known as preventative contacts. These kids from Las Vegas were unaware of the danger, but now know how to stay safe.
Yeah, we'll probably stay far away from that and close by the shore for sure.
It's strong. If you're not paying attention, it'll take you off your feet and pull you out. So make sure that you're paying attention. Don't get pulled out.
Surfers are loving the 3rd day of big waves, but they also see the danger for those who aren't experienced.
It's kind of like a big whirlpool at points, especially around the pier. That's why they don't want anybody near the pier swimming, because they can get ripped out, they can get undertowed. I saw the lifeguard rescue somebody right when I was paddling out. He was getting pulled right into the pier.
And adding to this mix, a warm ocean. The temperature of the water has gone up 6 degrees just over the last couple of days, so it's very, very comfortable, and that certainly is attracting a lot of people into the water. Today, the lifeguards here in Huntington Beach have made at least 25 rescues as well as warnings. That's the latest live in Huntington. Back to you.
Okay, Michelle, thank you so much. Be careful out there. Not only is there high surf, there's also getting pretty warmer across the Southland, too.
Yeah, we feel it here. Garth is here now with a first look at the forecast. We were talking about how warm it was today.
Yeah, it's up there. And with the water temp coming up, too, you start to get some jellyfish. I think it was in high school the last time I crashed the wedge, and I got the stupid knocked out of me, and I have a lot of stupid in me. I was slammed hard, but it was great. Body surfing out there with my cousin. 80 degrees right now. I never went back. West-southwest winds at 6. Humidity right at 38%. You can see the waves. That's up towards Santa Monica. So we are coming to the end of that event, but man, the temperatures are up. I was cycling today inbound Inland today, it's hot out there. 90 Van Nuys, 90 in New Ontario, San Bernardino at 93 right now, even though it's not reporting there. 88 in the Corona and 77 in the Santa Ana. There's a change from yesterday. High Deserts, Lancaster up 14 degrees. Everybody else up at just about a half a dozen. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about possibly some more waves coming. Hey, you're blowing down to Cabo for the weekend. Not so fast. I'll show it to you coming up in just a little bit. Back to you guys.
You don't want to hear about that. All right, Garth. Well, concerns of human smuggling in Orange County after a panga washed ashore in Crystal Cove. The boat landed in Laguna Beach early this morning. It had food, empty gas canisters, and life jackets on board. A patrolling helicopter spotted the boat earlier. Infrared picked up images of about a dozen people on board. They lost track of it in dense fog. Police believe they were smuggled up the coastline.
And I was shocked. I never have heard of this happening before. I was, very, very surprised that they, that they would migrate here this far north. It's got to be pretty scary travel.
Quite an act of desperation, and really scary. Scary for them, scary for us.
The Border Patrol and state parks authorities are investigating.
A Valencia couple had a dangerous encounter with a mountain lion in their own backyard. Yeah, they snapped these photos of that mountain lion wandering onto their patio. Big cat came right up to the sliding glass door. Stacy Barrell posted those photos you see there on Facebook. She had a warning to friends and neighbors to please be aware and keep your pets inside. A lot of people commented on just how thin the mountain lion looked, like it might be starving. The big cat was spotted about 6 o'clock yesterday morning.
Well, school is out, more children, and summer is here.
Yeah, and that means local amusement parks will see a spike in attendance.
But for one family, their day at a local park was ruined because their son is in a wheelchair, so they call 2 on Your Side.
Plus, caught on camera, an illegal car meetup quickly comes to an end when one of the cars catches fire.
And IHOP flips its name. We have reaction to the big change.